In this video, I wanted to have an honest look at cloud gaming and talk about my opinion on where it currently stands and if the narrative behind it is justified. That narrative mostly being that cloud gaming will remove ownership of games from the customer and fully usher in the age of digital only gaming if it is allowed to find success as a gaming model. Now, usually when we hear the term cloud gaming, the first service that comes, or I guess came to mind, since it no longer is a service anymore, is Google Stadia. While Stadia was not the first iteration of cloud gaming, it was the most known since it was the first to officially launch from beta into production and be marketed as a viable alternative to console gaming. While I believe Stadia's greatest achievement was proving that cloud gaming was actually possible, as long as the end user had the internet bandwidth required, it also tainted cloud gaming as a whole due to the service model Google used with Stadia. For those who are unaware, Stadia's cloud gaming model was that you were able to play your games on PCs and mobile devices that would otherwise not be able to play AAA titles by using Stadia servers in the cloud to do all of the heavy lifting required to run the game. Users would purchase games directly from the Stadia online store, and those games were housed there and readily accessible whenever users wanted to play them from any of the supported devices they owned. Users didn't have to worry about updating any games as they were all updated on Stadia's backend, and whenever you actually played the game, they were ready to go. The issue with this, and the biggest reason Stadia failed, was ownership worries. Naysayers of the service's main issue with this was the lack of actual ownership this model gave the customer. Since you could only play your games on Stadia and were unable to play your purchased games anywhere else, what happens if the service gets axed by Google? What happens to all the games purchased and the game save data? The main fear did actually come to pass when Google announced that on January 18th, 2023, Stadia servers would be taken offline due to the service not meeting the expectations Google had planned for it. The service was never profitable, and the player base was nowhere near the number of players Google deemed viable to continue putting money into maintaining the service. So, as people feared, after that date, all purchased games, all microtransactions bought in those games, were all erased after that date, with no way for the players who purchased them to download copies of the game to play offline. They essentially were completely gone. Now, some game publishers did offer ways to access your save data on those games, and you could transfer that save game data to another platform if you repurchased the game, say on PC or maybe Xbox or PlayStation. You could pick up where you left off on Stadia. But those were only the game publishers that actually built out tools for you to be able to do that. It wasn't natively coming from Google. So if the game publisher did not have a tool to grab the Stadia save data, then for that game, users completely lost any access to that save data. Now, to Google's credit, Google did refund all purchased games, even the microtransactions purchased in those games as well. Any Stadia controllers users bought in full back to anyone who did use the service anytime during its entire life cycle. So while gamers essentially lost no money, it did leave a stain on cloud gaming that still lingers even now. The majority of people who hear the term cloud gaming think they are all like Stadia, that they take away all ownership of purchased games from the user, but this couldn't be further from the truth. Other services like NVIDIA's GeForce Now and Boosteroid are both cloud gaming services, but with completely different service models from Stadia. Whereas Stadia kept everything on their servers users purchased, both GeForce Now and Boosteroid utilize the same online game stores that all PC players use to buy their games from. Those stores include Steam, Epic Game Store, GOG, and others. And the user always maintains ownership of the purchased games, no different than someone who plays on their local hardware on a gaming PC. GeForce Now and Boosteroid only connect to those online game stores to verify you indeed purchased the game at that store, and then if you have, it allows you to play their copy of the game on their servers without having to do any installs or downloads. So with that being said, it doesn't matter if one of those services were to go away because users would still have their own downloaded copy of their games and could play them on local hardware if they wanted to. Even the save files are synced from GeForce Now to whatever game store you own the game on, so you would be able to still have access to all your progress in that game on an actual local gaming PC. Basically, it's the same as how Microsoft syncs all game save data, no matter if you play an Xbox game on your PC or on your actual Xbox. That save data is constantly synced, so you always pick up right where you last saved. GeForce Now nor Boosteroid has any access to the copy you purchased from Steam or wherever, so all ownership rights that any PC player has, you have if you use GeForce Now or Boosteroid. So cloud gaming itself doesn't remove ownership of games from anyone. It just gives users an alternative way to play those games they own if they don't want to buy the latest and greatest hardware from a PC standpoint to play them. Sometimes it seems fear of something can actually skew the facts of what is actually happening. People don't take the time to see that what they think is happening isn't actually happening the way they fear it is, or fear that it will happen. PC players have been well over 95% digital games only for years now, but nobody fears that PCs are ushering in the digital age and removing ownership. People understand that it made sense to forego discs on PCs because download speeds had greatly surpassed disk speeds when installing games to the PC, as well as hard drive read write speeds had as well. Everything about using a disk on a PC was detrimental to actually getting the best performance while playing on a PC. Now, if GeForce Now or Boosteroid were to be taken offline, you would need to buy a gaming PC in order to play those games again. But you wouldn't have to rebuy the games because you already own them on Steam or wherever you purchased it. You would just need to re-download them onto that new PC, and then your save data would sync from Steam to your new PC, and you are playing right where you left off before GeForce Now went offline. I actually do this with my ROG Ally all the time. If I'm somewhere without internet, I just play my local copy of the game using my local hardware on the ROG Ally until I get back to somewhere with internet and use GeForce Now again. Then once I start playing on GeForce Now, it picks up right where I left off on my ROG Ally. One of the biggest benefits of using GeForce Now with the Ally is I get a lot better battery life while also being able to play at full 1080p 120 FPS. Since the actual hardware on the Ally isn't really being used, you get about triple the battery life you would if you were playing on local hardware at a way better performance level. Instead of fearing everything that has the name cloud gaming, make sure you take time to look at what it is actually offering before you judge it. Even if you already have a gaming PC and don't need GeForce Now, it could be used to hold you over if your GPU died on you and you didn't have the $700 to $1,500 to buy another one right now. You could pay $99 for 6 months of GeForce Now Ultimate and play at 4K 120 FPS while you're saving up to buy a replacement GPU for your rig. It doesn't have to be all cloud gaming or nothing, and that seems to be the biggest misconception. Cloud gaming is essentially a tool to be used when needed or when it's most beneficial to the user. The only thing to watch for is the model, to ensure it isn't a Stadia model and it is what GeForce Now and Boosteroid is offering. That way, ownership remains, and all you get is a way to play those games you actually own at a better performance level than what you have locally can offer. If you all enjoyed the video, leave comments below if you have anything to discuss. But as always, thanks for supporting the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.